Daqpper Don Podcast. Daqpper Don Podcast. This is your boy Daqpper Don Dez.
Yes, it's your boy Dapper Don Dez. Hey man, before we get started, I want to make sure if you find something, if you like something, could you hit that like button? Of course, share with your friends. This is the podcast that we talk about hip hop and all the moving parts in hip hop. We're gonna talk about today. We're going to talk about Jadakiss breaking 1 billion streams. Can you believe that? Jada actually hit 1 billion streams. Man, you know, it goes to show, just stay true to self, and, bro, it'll work out for you. We're going to talk about Harrio. If you don't know who Harrio is, he's one of the founding members of Death Row that got pardoned by Trump. We got to talk about who he is and how he stacks up with the other, street dudes that's behind the scenes of some of our favorite, our most favorite record labels. Then we're going to talk about Danny Lay, I believe that's her name. I'm not really familiar with her music. I know she dates the baby. I know that's the baby's girlfriend. She's pretty cute. She's a little cutie. But this cutie patootie might be appropriating the culture. Let's see. Maybe. You tell me after we run it down. Then we're going to talk. So after we talk about that, talk about colorism in hip-hop just in general. Then we got to talk about Floyd Mayweather and his... and what he thinks racism is. So if that sounds like something you into, you stay tuned. So first and foremost, we gotta talk about the main man, Jadakiss. We all know Jadakiss is New York royalty, but maybe it's time to change his slogan from top 5 dead or alive, and that's just off one LP, to top 5 dead or alive, and that's just off one DSP. Because he just broke the streaming platforms, figuratively speaking, with over 1 billion streams under his belt. This isn't just for his solo career. This isn't just from his solo career, but also many of his features. It looks like by not limiting itself to the New York sound of just 90s artists in general, but always showing love to the up-and-comers, got him icy and pricey for 25 years straight. This is cause to celebrate. He deserves to have his flowers while he can smell them. So I put together a list of 5 of Jadakiss songs that were battle cries when you were sliding with the homies, wise words in your darkest night, soundtrack to your love life, or that just made sense of a senseless world. Disclaimer, I know this is an argument waiting to happen in the comments section, but it's worth giving a try. So let's do some honorable mentions. First and foremost, I'm going to go Tupac, N-I-G-G-A, featuring Jadakiss. Tupac's flow, who's afraid of the punk police? Like the way he was just coming on that record. The way they kept flipping Pac's lyrics, just kept flipping and flipping. It shows you the big difference between a successful artist and an unsuccessful artist is an engineer, because they flipped the same Pac verse 20 times and it was sick every time. Hurricane Chris, A Baby remix, dope record. Can't take nothing from it. It was a real timepiece, and the reason why I say that is just because it really was my teenage years, man. That was my teenage years. Hurricane Chris, he was like, if Soulja Boy was A, he was B. He was like B tier, 2000, late 2000s. We gotta go Usher, Throwback. That was all Confessions. If you know anything about Confessions don't got nothing you skip. You don't skip through nothing on Confessions. Everything you hear from Confessions, from A to B, is all slaps, baby. But it still didn't make it. I'm going to also go with Bad Boys, All About the Benjamins. When I think about All About the Benjamins, the thing that I think about is them shiny suits and that beat. He said he didn't like the beat, and Missy Elliott didn't get credit for writing it, so I'm not going to put it in the top 5. That's the only reason why I actually love All About the Benjamins. But, I'm going to respect this brother's state of mind and his grind. So let's get into it. Jadakiss, the first one. Jadakiss, You Make Me Wanna, featuring Mariah Carey. Come on, let's give it up for it, man. This is one of the bangers. This one right here goes out to all the lovers. And I suspect that's the whole world, because everybody needs something or someone to love. End quote, Bobby Womack. This song right here was the puppy love anthem. This is a song you sold all your dreams to your high school sweetheart to. If you had 250 minutes on your prepaid Nokia, 125 minutes went to playing songs softly in the background like this while you ask each other stupid questions like, what are you doing? Nah, what are you doing? Like 100 times. And this was way before the DM, way before the text message. So you had the cake with your boo thing till y'all fell asleep. Really made you appreciate that time you had with a certain somebody. With lines like, yo, whatever the road to paradise is, we own it. gave me your income tax check so I could get on with. I remember the first girl that let me file her kids on my income tax. I swear I was litty for a month straight. I rented out a room. I ordered Domino's. I had some Jose Cuervo. Of course, I had to hit her with the ratchet startup kit. Get her hair done, nails done, turn her phone back on. But outside of that, man, all in all, this record right here is our forever timeless hood love classic. Second verse, not second one, second on the list, Ja Rule featuring Fat Joe and Jadakiss, New York. Even Roy Jones was forced to lean back. This is one of the rare occasions where Fat Joe had the best verse on the song. Seeing how it was produced by Cool and Dre, he had to go dumb. This is the second pick because it's the last true New York anthem. This was taken as a sign of disrespect by 50 Cent. Now imagine being a diamond artist, feeling intimidated by a song featuring 3 artists who have sold half of what you sold put together. That's because it was a slapper. It was a bop, a tough tune, to turn your head. They say you deserved it if you died with your eyes open. Well, open your eyes to this killer track, man. He definitely did his thing on that one. Ja Rule number 2. I remember everybody wanted to flip it like, oh, I'm from Duval or whatever. Like everybody tried to turn their own thing into it, but it was always I'm from New York. And it was a powerful joint. Like I only been in New York once, and it made me feel like a New York. I love how the video was shot. It was grimy, but yet still fly. It had so much New York element to it, dog. It was super, super fly. Number 3, Jadakiss featuring Styles P. We Gonna Make It. Unlike Orgasms and Outrage, you can't fake chemistry. The way that Jada and Styles lunge lyrics left and right can't be overlooked. This is Jadakiss' cheat code. Nobody else in his league of artists has a super twin. Most back and forth in the insults, but these two complement each other. I dare you to go to any crowded New York nightclub and say you think Styles or Jada had the best verse. Just honestly, the fact of the matter is, when he came off with the line, we gonna weigh the work that they waste whales with or something. This is before anybody was talking about the fish scales. And like I said, he's the only person in his league who has a for sure fire homeboy who he can rap back and forth with. And the reason that's crazy is because it's kind of like juggling knives a little bit. Very rarely are you going to go back and forth with somebody and the verse break even. Fat Joe and Big Pun, that verse didn't break even when they did the back and forth. If Jay-Z and Memphis Bleak did a back and forth, it didn't break even. But, that was just one of those ones where it was like you ain't want to get in front of that there. So I'm going to go with number 4. Number 4, Checkmate, 50 Cent diss. This is what you got a felony, but you ain't a predicate. Never the king of New York, you live in Connecticut. Come on. The mecca of the South of hip-hop is the show me state. That's where Southern hip-hop was born at. It was born in the show me state. We don't really get the appeal where artists are talking about pulling up and calling out names, but there's no real smoke. All fire and no smoke. You feel me? It's a good song, but I can only see it as a good song because I know nothing else progressed from it. But every once in a while, just the way that you present a story and the way that you come with it, it really starts the grab in our audience regardless of where they from. A lot like how New York did, like I just talked about with Ja Rule. But it's hard to do that, let alone for 2 New Yorkers who outside of commercial appeal really doesn't have a strong following in the South. But that line was a shot heard all around the world. Now, I don't have a strong familiarity with up north layout. But saying you're in Connecticut is a hilarious thing for no other reason than it's a random place for the toughest rapper in the world to be hanging out. So that's just already crazy. Number 5, Jennifer Lopez featuring Styles P and Jadakiss, Jenny from the Block. Every blue moon, J-Lo decides to be a woman of color. Nowadays, she's more Desperate Housewife than Desperado, but back when she was trying to tell us N-words and we didn't hear those, she's still Jenny from the Block. One of the best efforts for her to channel her living in color days. Kiss hit big with this single, even if it's more parody than a party anthem. But it still was, because you have every other effort after that kind of felt like it lacked just a little more. This was it. What really made it crazy is because this was like around the time that it was at a real crazy transition point where you had like Enrique Iglesias, like Valamor, let the rhythm take you over. Like they had a lot of Latin top 40 records. And you also had Urban was really coming into its own. You had like Destiny Child. So this song sat like perfectly in the middle. And it really embodied what the Bronx was. If it was hip hop, it was fly, it was cool. You know, and I think it was one of the best looks for Jada, because when you say, oh, Jada, what song does he have? Oh, he was on Jenny from the Block. You've heard Jenny from the Block. You've heard, listen, you've heard the Macarena. You've heard the Macarena. You heard Who Let the Dogs Out. You heard Britney Spears Hit Me One More Time. You heard Michael Jackson Just Beat It. And you heard Jenny from the Block. Now, I know those are 5 songs that sit in different spaces, from Michael Jackson being timeless to Who Let the Dogs Out being a meme before memes even existed. Jenny from the Block sits somewhere in there. It's the child of, if Who Let the Dogs Out and Britney Spears had a baby, it'll be Jenny from the Block. But it's still a big record though, so I don't want you to take it like I got an issue with the song. The song, all right. It's an all right song. So that's my pick for the boy Jada. Interesting fact, COVID is rampant. There's 40,000 people infected in the federal prison system and 190 deaths and rising every day. This was a true concern for 58-year-old Michael Harry O. Harris, one of the founding members of Death Row Records. As Trump leaves office, he decides to pardon 143 people, one of which being the founder of Death Row, Harry O. Harry O was arrested in 1988 for attempted murder, drug trafficking. In 1991, the real-life supervillain we know as Suge Knight asked him for a small $1.5 million loan so he can get this Death Row thing off the ground. Harry O happens to be a Bonnie Hunt blood, which is where I think he and Suge Knight made their acquaintance, seeing how Suge is a blood as well. Now, in every race has a field of business that race dominates. If you go back far enough, you will see that all of these businesses were backed by gangsters. Hip-hop is no exception. So what drug dealer do you think was most pivotal in creating a record label? To answer this question, we have to look at who Harry O is and how he stacks up against the Big Meeches, the Shotties, the P and the PQCs of the world. So first thing, Harry O being a silent partner and running the business from prison. See, most of the time when you think about it, when you think like about Harry O was different, it's because his reign started in prison. That's kind of even crazier for your label to be called Death Row and you're serving life in prison. That's a very interesting thing, right? You're supposed to get out in 2028. That was the time you're supposed to get out. So you see he's done over 30-something years in prison. But the fact that it started, that he went home in 1991, dog was already doing a bid. That's at least kind of shows some level of muscle that Harry O had, some kind of level of pull he had, because he could have easily had just lost all his money. But to invest that $1.5 million while you were already down bad, I don't know if he was still making moves in the joint. I don't know how powerful he was. Like I said, he was still in the blood gang. He was still a formidable, formidable means like a formidable opponent. He was a reliable ally. He was somebody that you could really turn to and say, look, Harry, oh man, I'm down bad. I need this opportunity to make this thing shake, to make it shake and bake, to get this money. And for him to just have 150, and I'm not 150, for him to just have 1.5, he at least had to have 10 just like laying around. This was in the 80s. This was in the beginning of the crack era. Back then, if you can get a bird, you could break that thing down and make damn near $100,000 off of it. And this stuff was coming straight from Mexico. So it's not like, it's... When you look at like Paid in Full, a lot of them dudes, they were playing with hundreds of thousands. If this man threw $1.5 million on a startup business, but the startup business did have Dr. Dre. So I'm not gonna say that like the startup business was just out of nowhere. It was Dr. Dre, and he heard about the NFL player turned bodyguard starting a record label with what would have possibly had been just a no-name producer Dre was straight, but he wasn't no standout act on NWA. He wasn't no crazy standout act. Little did he know he would end up partnering with one of the biggest things to ever happen on the West Coast, man. Imagine his pull, imagine his rank. I seen in the picture, he had some high yellow baby. We're going to talk about the term high yellow in a second. But he had some little bad little high yellow baby in the picture. So I guess he still could get him in there. I guess he still had some pull with the, ladies. So do your thing here, yo. But also with him being in prison, because if you look at, like, let's say, if you look at, let's say, Big Meech, right? Big Meech wasn't a silent partner. Big Meech was in front of the camera. Shotty was in front of the camera. These dudes, dude had to be behind the camera. He in prison. But he wasn't in front of the camera like that. And the fact that he must have had enough pull, enough muscle, and enough of a name for Suge to still come to him and say, nah, big homie, we need help. But he had to battle Suge in court over the proceeds of our death row. You believe that? Now, mind you, just to give you a rundown, Michelle A, Snoop Dogg, Dog Pound, that's Daz, that's Corrupt, that's Nate Dogg. I don't think Bow Wow did nothing on death row, but let him tell it, he was death row to the dizzall. He was dog pound down to the bone. You had Dre, you had Tupac, and you had the Outlaws. Like, you had a lot going on when it came to death row. And imagine you seeing all of these albums platinum. Snoop doing diamond. Come on, man. He felt like he needed all of his, so he took Suge to court. Now, that makes me wonder where does 1.5 come from, because you took him to court, you must have felt like you could back up that you was a bottom line investor. So how did he run this? That's so interesting. That's something that's got to get talked about. Whose 1.5 was this? How was he able to say, yeah, this is my 1.5? Was this before maybe like RICO laws was allowed? Before RICO laws was established? Because like I told you, he was arrested on drug trafficking and attempted murder. They didn't say anything about a RICO charge. I don't know who was the first person when they started RICOs, but maybe they weren't allowed to actually legally touch his money at the time. So they couldn't touch his actual money. He could, I guess, put up in the banks, or he wasn't locked up for money laundering. So he was still allowed to move around. Or not necessarily allowed to move around, but still allow his money to move around, which is more important than you moving around. But also, something that was interesting when you take it into totality is that death row was above gangbanging. Because like I told you, Suge was a blood, Harrio was a blood, but the flagship artist in the beginning was a Crip. And they even let Pac in, who started claiming Mob Piru, which was a blood set, and he was from the East Coast. He didn't move over there till he was 17. Now, given most people don't really get into the game until they 16, 17, where I'm from. But I know when it come to gang banging, they're like raised into that, really, right? Like, you may be 11 or 12 when you really just start throwing up the signs, and you might start putting in actual work to become a real one around 15, 16. By 17, you should, you got some kind of power. By 21, you're dead. That's how this thing goes. But so I get it may manifest a little quicker out there than here, because where I'm from, you start dabbling in the bad stuff, but by the time you 16, 17, you really trying to do something out here. But it was above all that gang banging. That's the whole point I'm trying to make. If you look at it, Snoop talked about on $1 Million Worth of Game, he talked about him being from the 20s and other dudes being like insane Crips or whatever. If you think about it, Snoop had a group called Eastside Boys with a rapper named Trey D. Trey D was from Insane Crip crew, who was, I guess, had beef with or was just from another set than Snoop Dogg's crew. He talked about how they had to learn how to come together and learn to get along with one another. That reminds me of Big U also saying the exact same thing when he came on $1 Million Worth of Game, which is Wallow and Gilly's podcast. He talked about how I'm not trying to be in here with you if you want to do all this gang banging, throwing up your set, blase, because it's bigger than that. And if you look at it, it's kind of interesting how all of the top legendary West Coast artists were Crips, but the people behind them were Bloods. If you look at, Big U was behind Nipsey in the beginning. But, Nipsey was his own man. Nipsey was an exception. But when you look at, like I said, Snoop being behind I mean, even YG and Nipsey coming together, that was blood and Crip. And for them to be able to put that to the side, the same way with J Rock, because mind you, TDE's J Rock and Nipsey Hussle was on the freshman cover together. That's why I said 2010 freshman cover might be the best freshman cover. I made that argument before. Because, mind you, it had Nipsey, J. Cole, Wiz Khalifa. It had Nipsey, J. Cole, Wiz Khalifa, Big Sean, J. Rock. OJ the Juice, man, that mean anything to you. Freddie Gibbs. Pill. He had to deal with MMG. It was a couple, man. It was a couple of them. But, anyway, it had the biggest names on the joint, man. It had some big names on the joint. But Nipsey and J Rock was on there, and they was talking about how it's important for the two of them to be seen together and show like how they got love for each other and they close. And this was the same thing uttered by Big U, and you see that it's clearly a demonstration laid by Death Row. Death Row never got too caught up in, this is your hood, this is your hood. Like Snoop said, he'll be shooting dice with some dude, let's say from another side of town, and he'll say, oh man, I got Twinkie on that, I got Twinkie on that. Well, Twinkie means 20. Twinkie is a way that hood would disrespect the hood from people that was from 20. Apparently, that's the set that Snoop Dogg is from. He's from the 20s. And so he would be like, they had to learn how to talk among each other. You remember when Cardi B had that whole thing where she said, I don't usually wear flu like this, which flu is, I guess, like where you replace the B with an F. So if you saying you don't wear blue, it's like you saying F blue, F whatever. But it's like little small nuances that shows how hip-hop has, is so curated in the streets, but to transform it has to become something bigger, and Death Row really laid the foundation for a lot of that. And Harry O being pardoned, and that brings me to the final part of why I got to give him some degree of credit. See, because Big Meech might have showed a lot of love. He bought a lot of Lamborghinis. That's baller. Don't get me wrong. And I don't know if you've seen the picture of Big Meech that surfaced. Big Meech looked like Big Meech that ate Big Meech. Like, he looked like he's Big Meech's bodyguard. I was like, where's Big Meech at? Is he standing behind that huge Samoan? Because that's not Big Meech. That man there got big. These brothers getting big. Bobby Shmurda done got big. Max B done got big. These boys in there eating, man. But Harry O being pardoned because he invested in his people and the young cats from his neighborhood, man. He invested into a young brother, Suge Knight, and Dr. Dre from his side of town. These was the little homies. They weren't the big dogs. We talking about he was big dog in 88. They arrested him in 88, so he probably was running it forever. He's 58. So he was a young dude. He was a young dude making it, but he was big dog and he invested back in his people. He could put that $1.5 billion into anything. But he might have would have made more money investing in, let's say, some houses or whatever. But because he invested in Death Row, Snoop Dogg later turned around and petitioned to a president that he couldn't stand to get him to pardon Harry O. That's because you invested and you kept it real with your people, and your people kept it real with you. Same thing with like Meek Mills. You keep it real with your people. Another example of like young street dudes, when they come up and they seeing potential of young cats in the neighborhood and say, nah, look, I'm going to put this paper behind your hustle and we going to take it further. QC's Peace signing Lil Baby, a dude he knew before he was famous. He knew Lil Baby for shooting dice in the studio and just hanging around, and before he went to prison. And when he got out of prison, he said, look, I want to give you an opportunity to actually make it. Just like in the last episode, I talked about people manipulating young black men. This is the exact opposite thing that I was talking about. You putting them on, and ultimately, they help you come out too. It's not just a crab in a bucket mentality. Because the interesting thing about crabs in a bucket is, if all the crabs interlocked arms and it took the same energy to pull the next one under them up, all of them can get out the bucket very easily. As a matter of fact, eventually, so many of them will be outside the bucket. The chain would be so far outside the bucket, it'll tip over and everybody else will just come spilling out with very little effort. But we don't think like that. That's why it's called the crab in a bucket mentality. Because the crab want to bring the other one down instead of helping the other one lift up. Because to lift that one up, you got to let that person go. you got to not only let that person go, you got to help them get over the wall and hope that they keep the chain going, that they strong enough to pull you up and you strong enough to pull the next one up and the next one up. Because the minute one person gets selfish and said, I don't care about the person beneath me, I'm just trying to get out the bucket, the chain's broken. So that was probably the best. If I'm thinking about it, that was probably the best investment of 80s drug money that I could think of. Leave me a comment in the comment section where you can think of somebody who invested drug money from the 80s better than Harry-O, because he invested in Tupac and Snoop Dogg. There was no Tupac. There was no Death Row. There'll be no Eminem. There'll be no 50 Cent. There'll be no Game. There'll be no Kendrick Lamar. Look at how much we lost. Look at how much black expression we lost. Not even black expression. You wouldn't even have Eminem. You wouldn't have had him. And them, man, so much came from this brother really investing the money, and I'm glad he's home. I don't know who he attempted to kill. I don't know who all he's hurt, but at the end of the day, he only had 7 years left, so why not let him home, right? I'm sure he learned his lesson. I'm sure he learned his lesson. And if he didn't, it ain't like you gonna go teach him it. It ain't like keeping him in there and then Longa's gonna teach him this lesson. If he's still thugging, he's still thugging. It is what it is. It is what it is. But, and another one is Rick Ross. Rick Ross is trying to get Boobie Williams home. But Rick Ross is in the news for a whole nother reason and trying to help up a young black man. They say he's trying to help tear down a young black woman. So a video went viral. A video clip went viral where Rick Ross had a TV show apparently, which why did I not watch this TV show? But Rick Ross had a television show with The Dream and Lenny S from Rock Nation, and they were supposed to find the next big talent, next hot thing, man. You feel me? But things get kind of crazy when you're judging entertainment and saying who should win what. So it's this girl named Just Brittany. She goes up and she does, I believe, Maybach Music. And she kind of flips it just a little bit. But like I said, she's definitely high yellow, thick and curvy. Really just, she seemed like your regular Miami night shenanigans. You feel me? She looked like a fun night. But she went up there and she just kind of was okay. She was just an okay performer. She was straight. She was a straight singer. She calls out another woman, which I don't know why she did this, because this other girl was actually a better artist. She called her out and said, yo, we both did the exact same beat. I'm saying we did the same beat. So instantly that created competition. So the next girl get up there and the first thing they say is, ooh, I want to see who got the same beat. Hey, you better come with it. And the girl was singing, and she was killing it. And her name was Kaya, I believe. Kayla or Kaya. Let's go with Kayla. Kayla was up there singing her heart out. Like, I'm getting the Lauryn Hill class act vibes off this one here. She actually blowing, she's singing, but they stop her mid-singing and say, hold up, I ain't really feeling what you saying right now. I'm not feeling it. It doesn't fit with you. And I think, honestly, the way she was kind of dressed, like if you look at Britney versus you look at Kayla kind of came dressed more conservative. I think they was getting more of like a Lauryn Hill type vibe off her, and they said it just didn't fit with her image. I just don't think Ross seen it now. I think it was just a simple fact that, Kayla was thicker, she was more light-skinned, and that she looked like she had more appeal, and at the end of the day, this is how it goes. This isn't American Idol. They never said that was supposed to be American Idol. This wasn't the best singer win. This is the person that The Dream, Rick Ross, and Lenny S can look at. Lenny S made a good point. He said they are the one or two things. They got to want to be you or believe you. They got to want to be you or believe you. And she might not have met that curriculum. Now, to me, Kayla was just as beautiful. She was just as beautiful of a girl, or maybe even more so. I don't want to pit women against each other and make it a shallow thing, because that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about how, as an entertainer, sometimes you can be more talented and just not make it. There's dudes who was more lyrical than other cats that just didn't make it. You think Waka Flocka was the most lyrical cat that they had the option to go get? He was just the one that worked. He was tall, dreadhead, young, wild, tatted up. It worked. He looked like money. He looked like something that was easily marketable. So when you marketing yourself, you just got to think about that. She didn't have a look. She didn't look packaged already. Britney looked packaged already. She looked like she was going to fall right into that Cardi B ratchet space. It just looked like something that was already packaged and ready. Oh, girl, they might have felt like she looked more, she should probably had a more softer approach because she was a little more conservatively dressed. She was more dark-skinned. But, I mean, hell, a lot of people more dark-skinned than just Britney. The girl about Charlie Baltimore complexion. You ain't gotta go too far to find somebody lighter than her. But that brings me to my more important part, which my whole take on that is it's tough being an entertainer. Sometimes you're just, old girl was the most talented one. That's a fact. But all of these people who are saying that, this is colorism and the reason why she didn't get picked is because she's more dark-skinned, you also have to realize that old girl set you up in a sense of saying that, she did my same thing. So it pit the two of you against each other. You probably could have went up there and did the song, and that's fine. But now when he's listening to this song, he's listening because you're playing Ross's record. He's listening to it like, okay, I know what kind of woman I want singing it, how hard I want it sung. You taking me to church, and this is a top 40 record. He may not feel like the vision fits. He might not have felt like the vision fit. Or he might have just felt like, you know what, I don't want to be with nobody that's my same complexion. So I hate myself, so I in turn hate you. Maybe. Who knows? This was around the time he did that You Ain't Even Know It. So he was in a dark space. He was in a dark space. Y'all know Rose my favorite rapper. So, I'm not finna sit here and just bash on the G. I ain't finna do that, but you might got a point. She was a more talented artist. Maybe he just felt like light skin was more marketable, but he didn't feel that way when it came to himself, Meek Mills, or Wale, because he doesn't seem to be marketing Gunplay more than he does Wale. Does he? No. But it is what it is. But how are we speaking of Yellow Bones? Let me ask a question, man. Let me seriously ask a question. Can you be a yellow bone and not be black? That don't make sense, right? Like, that's a term we as black people came up with. Yellow bone, light skin, red bone, all of that. That's identifies a light-skinned black person, namely a woman. Yellow bone, meaning Jada Pinkett, yellow, or red bone. Is that now? Is it different? Now let's go yellow, red. So what's red? Is red the new brown? I don't know. How does this spectrum work? Because when you say yellow, you thought Jada Pinkett. You thought who's super light? Who's super light? Like maybe you thought like Salt from Salt and Pepper. Somebody like that. Regine. Regine from Living Single. You thought more light skin, but now that I'm looking at it, I'm noticing a lot more Dominican women are claiming yellow bone. Well, not even just Dominican, just women who aren't identifying as black people, period. Since when? How long have we done that? Because Danny Lay put out a song called Yellow Bone, and I thought it was interesting that they had a problem with Danny Lay's Yellow Bone, but love Cardi B's Bodak Yellow, which is a play on Kodak Black. I thought that was interesting. I really did. And it's primarily women. Let's not beat around the bush. That's the fan base. That's the demographic for that song. That's not to say that black men haven't overwhelmingly praised light-skinned women in hip-hop over. And I think as men, can we also be a G? As men, we feel like, I think the reason why we don't really get into the colorism thing or get behind it as much in real life is because these exact same people who orbit this space are broke, but they say, I don't want a broke N-word, right? I don't want no broke man, even though she broker than you. You work at a post office. She don't work nowhere, but she don't want a broke man. They out here chasing a ball player, right? And if that's the case, are you mad that black men don't find you attractive? Or are you mad that your complexion holds you back from getting richer men? Because that's what a lot of us as black men hear. I'm going to just be G. That's what a lot of us hear when we hear this colorism talk, because it's vanity. If you said I don't like fat guys, I can't say and act like you got self-hate if you too are fat. That's not your problem. You like what you like. You fall where you fall in the pecking order. If you don't like short guys and you're short yourself, that's not self-hate. So why does complexion all of a sudden get the title of, oh, this is self-hate and this thing is not self-hate? Why? Well, why does that now get the same title? Old girl made a song, said yellow bones, that's what he likes. I always figured yellow was light-skinned women. But I guess now, because if that makes you light-skinned, is Italian yellow bone? Because a lot of Latinos look Italian. I was gonna say Asian, but I'm not trying to get canceled. I'm not trying to get canceled out here. I'm not. I ain't gonna get canceled out here playing with y'all, man. No, but so for a lot of us, I think for a lot of us as black men, the reason we don't really champion these women who are saying, "Hey, let's end this whole color scheme," because it's like, well, if you're gonna end that, then you gotta end this whole broke man, rich man, tall guy, short guy, bald guy. You know, there was a meme that says, why don't none of these guys date? There was a picture of like Alicia Keys and Swiss Beats, Jay-Z, Beyonce, you know, successful black couples, not companies, successful black couples. And the caption said, why don't these men date women of their own complexion? Date women with their mother's complexion. One, that's gross. What are you bringing dudes' mamas into this for? And you don't know what they mamas look like. That's the second one. You don't know what they mamas look like. And the third thing that comes to my mind is, why you don't date nobody with your daddy hairline? Your daddy bald. You don't date bald men. It ain't self-hate, is it? You probably bald under that wig. Don't nobody sit here and tell you what you should and shouldn't like. You can't prescribe self-hate because you fall where you fall on a pecking order. And it's not the fact, it'll be different if all black men felt that way. These same women who say, oh, that's all they want, they got a comment section on their Instagram photos filled with guys. Oh, what's up, queen, my beautiful chocolate goddess. The sun rises and sets on your face, queen. You know, he's all the way in on you. He's fully convinced you somebody special. And you don't even give him no attention. You don't give a dog no play. He get nothing but the stiff on. That's the only stiffy he getting. and it's like, okay, so you mad that because she's higher on the pecking order. But the ladder you're trying to climb is already one of vanity. You live by that vanity, you die by that vanity. If they all of a sudden said, oh, only like women of dark melanin and women with less melanin are less attractive, I doubt you're going to jump out there and be like, no, hold up. You're not going to come at sis like that. You're not even coming at her like that. You understand me? You take that back. You're not going to do that. But here's what Danny Lay went wrong. Here's what Danny Lay messed up. And I'm going to let you know where you messed up, Danny Lay, because here's where you messed up. You was way too aggressive. You was way too hurt. And it seemed like you was enjoying the attention. Now, I don't know who you are. I don't really listen to your music. You know who she remind me of? Amina Butterfly. You remember Amina Butterfly that I was with? Who was she with? Come on now. I don't even watch Love and Hip Hop. I know, dog. Peter Guns and Amina. Now I forgot her damn name. Amina Butterfly. Amina Guns now. Amina Guns. That's her name now. Amina Guns. I'm Anita Guns. She kind of remind me of Shorty. She just was way too aggressive. She was way too tough. I remember Shorty, Amina Butterfly was on the Breakfast Club, and Charlamagne asked her what her show fee was, and she said, it wasn't that much, and he replied, what, $200 and a sandwich? I didn't know that, but that's a real thing. Some dudes would charge $500 in a bottle. Like, no, you got to give me a bottle. And you know what? That's a smart thing to actually ask for in your show fee, because if you're walking around with the bottle, you look like you're popping. You know, you look like you that dude. You look like you make it do what it do. And you should definitely run it up with the check. If you're going to get a bottle, might as well. Getting $500 in a bottle, you kind of lit. You kind of that dude a little bit. But anyway, she reminded me of Amina Butterfly. She just didn't really seem too bright with it. And she was basically saying, y'all are outraged. Y'all coming at me for no reason. Why can't I celebrate, who I am? And she should have said from the jump, like, oh, y'all didn't have an issue when Cardi was Bodak Yellow. Y'all didn't have an issue when she was red bottoms and claiming blood. Like, she's literally a woman that says she's not black but claims blood. Blood means we are one and the same. We are one blood. That's what that means. That means we are kin to each other. Although they let Tekashi claim blood, they let anybody in there. I feel like 15 bands can give you a legitimate certification with the Bloods. I think it'll cost you less to get certified with them than for you to get a bachelor's. It'll cost you a whole lot less. They let anybody in there. You remember Soulja Boy said he ain't from Compton, he from Fruit Town. He said he from Fruit Town. I was like, damn, Fruit Town. That sounds delicious. Fruit Town. I was like, wait, is Grape Street in Fruit Town? Ooh, there's Grape Street beef with Fruit Town because they kicked him out of Fruit Town. I'm not playing. I'm not playing. I ain't even built like that. Don't come for me when you see me. Don't come for me when you see me. I ain't even built like that, shorty. Well, I'm gonna get off that one. I wanted to talk about this Floyd Mayweather thing, man. Floyd Mayweather, the same man who say I buy Gucci and I buy Prada and I buy it when I want it, it's my dollar, says he now knows racism is real. He now knows that we are living in a racist world. This is crazy. This is flabbergasting that he is just now realizing it. Now, do you think he realizes we live in? Let me give you a multiple choice. Let's do it like this. Let's have fun. Do you think he realizes racism exists because A, Breonna Taylor's killer isn't getting arrested, hasn't been arrested, and won't be arrested? B, that Floyd Mayweather knows racism is still very much alive. That George Floyd killer is out on $1 million bond while you got rednecks rushing the Capitol and getting off on house arrest. Does you think he knows that racism exists? Or C, because people don't like him as much as they like Conor McGregor? A, Breonna Taylor's killer still alive. B, you can bond out a terroristic killer as long as they're white. Or C, because Conor McGregor is way more popular among a certain audience of people than he is. If you guess B or A, you are wrong. He said C. He said, that's how I know. He basically, so Conor McGregor got washed by this guy. I can't even pronounce his name. It's Porio, whatever. Dog was slugging. It wasn't even really like that good of a slugfest. It looked like his mental wasn't there. It really looks like Conor's mental wasn't there. I looked at a small clip and I was like, yo, his mental's not there. And if his mental's not there, he can't win. Doesn't matter how big you are. That's why Anthony Joshua couldn't beat Ruiz. Because your mental is just not there. When your mental isn't there, and this ain't a sports podcast by no means. I'm just speaking on Floyd, really. But anyway, Conor McGregor got washed, and he's still the people's champ. Floyd doesn't get why he's not the people's champ. He wants to be the people's champ. Here's the thing about Floyd. And Floyd says you can see a young black kid that comes from the ghetto, doesn't get beat, works extremely hard, and still gets hate, while this guy who came from the ghetto, worked extremely hard, and did lose a fight, still gets liked. People like somebody who's lost and bounced back. People likes to see the underdogs lose and come back. That's the Green Goblin gave Spider-Man that advice one time, and I'm gonna give you that advice. One thing people like more than seeing a hero rise is seeing a hero fall. People just like to see that. We like to see the end of a legacy. You know, we love to hear about Mike Tyson killing everybody in the ring, but we also like to hear about Buster Douglas too, though, don't we? Zab Judah said after Buster Douglas knocked out Mike Tyson, he couldn't come back to Brooklyn. He said he couldn't come to Brooklyn. He said he couldn't come to New York. Who wants to come to New York? I got 25 million. No, I'm fine. I think I'm going to be okay in Kansas City, the middle of nowhere. I don't know where Buster Douglas is from. But, you know, and this just shows how self-centered Floyd is, because you just spent, you forgot when you went and bought all of this Gucci, all of this Prada, and you said you do what you want to do and you're all about winning. The same reason people love LeBron. LeBron is a great player, but he also is great outside of the ring. Outside of the ring, you're just all about Floyd. Your daughter's out here letting rappers disrespect your name. You got just so much, you're beating on women. It's just so much mess in your life, so much clutter in your life. It's like you only winning in the ring. And people like to see you win all over the ring, man. Not all over the ring. They like to see you win all over life. And that doesn't look like what's happening with you. But all in all, you know, Floyd, if you need to hear this, Floyd, then I'm going to tell you, you are the greatest of our time. And if somebody says you're not top 5 boxer after you go 50-0 and you make every person boxing look like an amateur, Madonna gave you a run. So you made 49 people look like Zab gave you a run too. You made 45 of them. I'm gonna leave leadway for 3 more that I can't think of right now. I don't feel like Oscar really did that to him. Oscar was in terrible shape. You made 45 professional boxers look like amateurs. You're a talent, and you clearly the bar to reach. You see Devin Haney. You see the Tank. You see who's the young boy? Damn, man. Ryan Garcia, but that's not who I was about to say. Young white boy, Kelly something. But you see, you're the one to beat. You're the title to reach. And unfortunately, so many people are so worried about being undefeated that they don't realize that the true storyline is taking a loss and getting back up. Everybody wants to be the undefeated boxer, so they're taking these like trash ass matches. Charlo's another one. Shout out to him. It's a couple I can't think of at this very moment. Anyway, and definitely anyhow, Floyd, you are the best. You should be getting loved, but you've done a lot of clown stuff too, and we're gonna call a clown at the end of the day. And you love a basic broad. Oh, you love a basic woman. That's your favorite thing in life. So, and you're probably gonna be fighting Logan Paul. Don't talk to me about no Logan Paul, dog. I don't want to hear nothing about no Logan Paul. But anyway, that's my show. I'm gonna get up out of here, man. Once again, we do this every week, every Monday. Thank you for tuning in, making me the number 1 podcast in my day. It's the number 1 priority in my life. We coming up, man. We getting some steam. We getting them in the bucket. That's the most important thing. We getting them in the bucket. We making moves, getting ourselves in a strong position. And man, look, until next time, it's your boy Daqpper Don Dez. I'm out.